welcome to the date, I'm going to find it, October 3rd, 2017 public hearing, as well as town hall meeting, and we also have a few board resolutions from a special meeting tonight. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Jory? Present. Councilmember Jeffrey? Present. Councilmember Wiltshire? Present. Councilmember Feldman? Present. And Supervisor Levenberg?
Here.
This evening, we are going to begin with public hearings in the matter of local law number 6, formerly local law number 2, for the purpose of amending the zoning and cabaret chapters of the town code. Visitors shall be accorded 1 3-minute opportunity to address this public hearing. Prior to opening the public hearing, Supervisor Levenberg?
So we have been working on amending our town code to incorporate recommendations from the town's comprehensive plan since June 7th, 2016, when we kicked off this process. With the help and guidance of our planner from FP Clark, David Stolman, who is unfortunately caught in a very large traffic jam right now, our attorneys Steve Silverberg and Christy Tomadonna, comments from planning and zoning boards, our environmental advisory committee, our building inspector, Westchester County, and most important, residents and business owners in our community, we have amended our code to include what we believe are a number of improvements. These include improved setbacks and screenings that are both sensitive to the environment and to our residents, guidance on night lighting that is sensitive to keeping people safe and our skies dark at night, additional definitions that clarify bed and breakfasts, the addition of artist live workspace to the neighborhood commercial district, changed zones in Crotonville, which we believe better protect our environment and will also improve the neighborhood for all, and clarification of our cabaret and noise codes. We have deliberated for a year and a half, and I believe our board has been very responsive to the public input we have received, trying to balance it with a mind to both the present and the future of the town of Ossining. We appreciate all the time many of the members of our community and our business district have devoted to sharing their views with us. I am cautiously optimistic that tonight we will be able to close our public hearing and adopt the local law and accept the negative declaration for this local law so that we can end our moratorium on development and continue forward thoughtfully. This is certainly not the end of our conversations on planning and zoning, but it is the end of this particular chapter. So thank you again to the board for your patience and thoughtful deliberation, and also to Maddie Zahach in my office for helping us keep everything straight. And without further ado, Madam Clerk.
Okay, I only have one person that signed up, and that is Bruce Fiorito.
Which microphone are we giving for public?
Supervisor Levenberg, members of the board, council. I think after the last year and a half of going over this, all the rezoning, I think we've covered a lot of ground, made a lot of changes. I think hopefully everyone can live with all the changes, and I think we all did a great job. I think we covered a lot of ground, and looking forward to closing this and completing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your public input along the way.
And since there's no one else on the list, is there anyone else who's come to address this public hearing?
I just want to note for the record that Mr. Stolman prepared a draft negative declaration for the board's consideration, which was circulated earlier to the board so that we had an opportunity to review it before taking any action.
Thank you. So,
Want to close the public hearing?
yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Oh, wait. Is this the question and answer session?
No, this is the public hearing on the local law number 6, as just previously described, briefly.
Do I have a motion to close this public? Second.
All those in favor? Do we have to do a roll call vote for closing the public hearing? No? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
We'll move on to board announcements.
So I just wanted to start first with a statement, a brief statement on the Las Vegas tragedy. There are really no words that can be said about what took place Sunday night in Las Vegas. All I've been thinking about is just the fact that none of us are born wanting to commit such atrocities. Indifference, cruelty, and hatred are learned. And if we can learn them, we must be able to unlearn them. Better yet, we can make sure we do not teach them to our children at all, but rather that we teach just the opposite. This community of Ossining is beautiful because of the sheer number of folks who do this work every day, of meeting hatred with radical hospitality, answering callous indifference with compassion, teaching acceptance, inclusion, and love. This work has never been easy to do, but rarely is anything easy that is worth doing. I know that I will continue to teach my children how to love deeply and widely, how to deal with their internal struggles appropriately, and how to make our world safe and welcoming for friends and strangers alike. And I will continue to share those same messages with my friends, my neighbors, and our community members. It is certainly hard to do in the face of such hatred, because it is hard not to get caught up in an eye for an eye. But that's just the way it is. I'm here for every single person in this room and in this community as we do this together. Whether rising up against random acts of violence or working to combat the more entrenched forms of violence, such as poverty, bigotry, and callous indifference. I am here for you, and we, your town board, is here for you. Frankly, as I am sure we all feel, there is no alternative. And now I would just like to have a moment of silence for all the victims of that horrible tragedy. A moment isn't long enough. Thank you. On a brighter note, tomorrow we have been busy planning for Organ Donor Enrollment Day, which will take place across the state tomorrow, Wednesday, October 4th. And this is just another example of how our community continues to work together to pay it forward. Last year, the town partnered with Live On New York and worked alongside Phelps Hospital and OVAC to get 91 folks signed up to be donors. We are looking to break our own record in 2017. Look for volunteers wearing these bright orange shirts around the town, at the Village and Town offices, Walgreens, CVS and Chilmark, the Ossining Public Library right here, Ossining High School, and Open Door. Or stop by the Joseph G. Caputo Community Center to sign up and give the gift of life. We will have registration forms in English and in Spanish, and actually we have a few here tonight if you don't think you're going to make it back to us tomorrow. As long as you date them tomorrow, we'll get credit. The town will be taking up a collection at these sites for the families struggling in Puerto Rico as well, so please bring flashlights and batteries to donate, as it's our understanding that that is what is most needed at this time. And Councilwoman Jeffrey has been working hard to coordinate efforts from multiple offices in the area, including Senator Carlucci's, to get these items to Puerto Rico, into the hands of people who can get them distributed as they are needed. We also plan to hold a press conference at 16 Croton Avenue at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if you want to learn more about this great day, you can go to enrollmentday.org. Other events that are coming up, we have tomorrow night, I think it's Thursday night. No, it is Wednesday night. Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Our Ossining documentary and discussion series is going to be featuring Dare to Be, which is a film on the sport of women's rowing and the human spirit. And you can get more information about that film at daretobe.com. 6:30 again tomorrow right here in the Boudars Theater at the library. Also, we want to remind you that if you or someone you know has a DACA that expires between now and March 5th, 2018, October 5th is the renewal deadline. Call Eliana Abad at the Hudson Valley Community Coalition, 914-382-5779 for more information on how she can help and how they can help. We have a really very, very hectic week. We've been doing a lot of planning for in the town, besides the Oregon Donor Enrollment Day, besides tonight's town hall meeting on October 5th, Thursday, October 5th at Club Fit in their Briarcliff Cafe at 584 North State Road. We are going to be talking about making Ossining and Millwood more bike and pedestrian friendly. So please join us to weigh in on the best routes to connect downtown Ossining to the North County Trailway in Millwood, North State Road, and everything in between. We look forward to your participation. If you are a cyclist, or if you are somebody who likes to hike and are looking for better ways to make connections from our community, from our commercial districts to our beautiful open spaces, please join us. We'd love to hear from you. We also have on October 5th here at the Public Library, community conversations that's sponsored by Westchester Community Foundation as well as the Westchester Library Systems. And we're going to have a panelist, Cheryl Robert, who's the Executive Director of the Greenberger Center for Social and Criminal Justice, Sean Pica, who's the Executive Director of Hudson Link for Higher Education and Prison, and Roger Panetta, who's Professor Emeritus at Fordham University and author, to talk about criminal justice yesterday and today. And this is also sponsored by the Sing Sing Prison Museum Board, which is hopefully a project that you've heard about and will be hearing more about in the near future. Westchester County Historical Society is presenting its 24th annual giant tag sale this Saturday, October 7th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Westchester County Records and Archives Center in Elmsford. Green Ossining, our own Green Ossining, which is meeting as we speak at the town hall, is sponsoring their Ossining Briarcliff Townwide Tag Sale. Many people have signed up to have tag sales this Saturday with a rain date this Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So look for these signs so you can find out who's having tag sales that is collaborated with the Green Ossining group to do so. And then we also have at Westchester Collaborative Theater, Jazz Masters Music Series this Saturday, October 7th at 7:30 p.m. That's 23 Water Street in Ossining. Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff is sponsoring a conversation, The Great Debate, Single-Payer Healthcare, a pro and con discussion about healthcare in New York State. And that is at Cortland Town Hall next Tuesday, October 10th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's at 1 Hetty Street, Cortland, Maine. We have a lot of stuff going on at Cedar Lane Park on October 14th. The Ossining PBA will hold their 5K, their first annual 5K they're hoping, at Cedar Lane Park. So please join them for a road and trail walk and run 5K. All proceeds go to benefit the Hope for Heroes Foundation. You can register online at bit.ly/OssiningPBA5K. I don't know if that's .com or that's what you have to put in. That's it. Okay. The Ossining Arts Council, also on October 14th, is going to be sponsoring open studio tours, which includes a stop at Cedar Lane Arts Center, which is in our lovely Cedar Lane Park. So you can go to the Austin Arts Council website or Miriam Haas, HAAS 17 @gmail.com to get more information about getting tickets to that event. And you get to go into people's homes and studios and also see their artwork and see what talented folks we have in Austin. The Austin Historic Cemeteries Conservancy on October 21st is sponsoring their last gravestone cleaning and restoration workshop for the season, and that's from 9 a.m. to noon at Sparta Cemetery this time. And finally, and I'm only mentioning this now because they run out of tickets, well not quite finally, but they run out of tickets fast. Jug Tavern is hosting the Roots of American Folk Music with Tim Rowell on banjo and Ambrose Vertibello on fiddle. I heard them last time, they're fantastic. It's a small and wonderful historic space in Sparta. So if you're interested in signing up, go to events@jugtavern.org or call 941-1699. And finally, not to be missed, we're getting close to Halloween, folks. We're at our first meeting in October. Do not forget to attend the scary and fantastic 4th annual Forest O' Fears Haunted Hayride, also at our wonderful Cedar Lane Park. They are still looking for performers. For that, you can visit www.forestofears.org for more information on their open auditions. This will be taking place October 27th and 28th from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. and it is a spooky and wonderful time. It's recommended for children 10 and up, but there are also activities on the field for children of all ages, and they will be featuring a fire show at 7:15, 8:15, and 9:15 by the Flaming Barrel of Monkeys Entertainment. So it's gonna be fun, but you do have to sign up in advance for the hayride portion of it, so that they know how to plan accordingly. ForestOFears.org. And I think that's it. Do my colleagues have any in it?
I just want to talk a little bit more about the donation drive that we've been doing for Puerto Rico. I actually started it with a couple of other individuals in our community who have family relatives who are affected. And we stopped our drive about today, but luckily, Senator Carlucci is continuing his drive until October 13th. Mostly things like baby products, hygiene products, flashlights and lanterns, because there's no electricity on the island. And also, my understanding is that Westchester County has now picked up a drive as well. And if anybody is around White Plains, I think the courthouse there is taking things also, if anybody's interested. So I just wanted to finish.
Madam Supervisor, if you don't mind, I have an announcement. The Austin Historical Society is hosting their, I believe it's their 86th annual installation dinner on October the 20th at up at the yes, up the old Maison Lafitte.
The Briarcliff Manor,
Yes.
Antipasto di Napoli.
And it's $85 a person. If you would like, I know reservations go quickly. Call 941-0001. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments on any agenda items.
And this is just on the agenda items, and hopefully there are enough copies of the agenda, and we'll get to public comments in general for our town hall meeting a little bit later. I did just want to make a quick note to let everybody know that this is a town hall meeting, so we do not have any formal agenda planned to discuss the issue that we know most of you are here to discuss. We will make a statement on that, but there's nothing formal on the agenda. We do have a couple of impending issues that we need to discuss before that, so that's where we're going to be.
Not seeing anyone, we'll move into our agenda items. Resolved that the town board of the town of Boston.
Speak into the mic.
Resolved that the town board of the town of Boston hereby appoints James Nevins Ossing to the seasonal position of laborer at Dale Cemetery effective October 2nd, 2017 at a rate of $12 per hour.
Do I have a motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Resolution adopting local law
Can
number
hear you.
6. Adoption of local law number 6, 2017, amending the zoning, tree protection, and cabaret chapters of the town code and amending the town zoning map. Whereas the town of Boston Town Board is considering the adoption of local law number 6, 2017, which would amend the zoning, tree protection, and cabaret chapters of the town code and amend the zoning map with respect to a variety of matters in order to update and improve these chapters and the map, proposed action. And whereas this local law is determined to be an exercise of the police powers of the town to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of its residents, and also serves to implement recommendations of the town's comprehensive plan. And whereas in order to give the town board time to analyze these issues without land use applications being processed that could potentially be inconsistent with the intended goals of the proposed action. After a duly noticed public hearing, the town board adopted a local law enacting a moratorium on certain development effective June 7, 2016, which moratorium, after additional duly noticed public hearings, has been extended and is scheduled to expire on October the 7th, 2017. Whereas a public hearing on the proposed local law was duly noticed, opened on January 10, 2017, adjourned to and continued at many subsequent town board meetings, and after being renoticed with the revised revision of the proposed local law on or about August 18, 2017, the public hearing was closed on October 3, 2017, during which times all of those in attendance were given an opportunity to be heard. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 1 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617, NYC-RR. Whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is an action for which there are no other involved agencies, and that the town board is therefore by default the lead agency in accordance with SEQA for this action, and whereas the town board referred the proposed local law to the town planning board and zoning board for their advisory opinions and received memorandums from both boards, and whereas the town board complied with the referral requirements of Section 239 of the New York State General Municipal Law, and in response to said referral, the Westchester County Planning Board responded by letter stating, "We have viewed the proposed amendments and find them to be in a matter for local determination in accordance with the town's planning and zoning policies." And whereas the town board has given due consideration to all the comments received from the public, including but not limited to town residents and property owners, the town's consultants, the town planning board, town zoning board, and the Westchester County Planning Board, and where said local law has been on the desks of the members of the town board of the town of Ossing for at least 7 days, exclusive of Sunday, prior to the adoption of this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby adopts and incorporates the recitations and statements set forth above as it fully set forth and resolved herein. 2, pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act regulations, the town board hereby adopts the attached negative declaration for the reasons stated therein, thereby finding that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and consequently finding that a draft generic environmental impact statement will not be required, and that the CEQA process is therefore completed. 3, the town board, after due deliberation, finds that it is in the best interest of the town to adopt said local law, and the town board hereby adopts local law number 6, 2017, a copy of which is attached hereto and made as a part of this resolution, except as specifically modified by the amendments contained therein. The town code, as originally adopted and amended from time to time thereafter, is to remain in full force and effect. 4, the moratorium will expire on October 7, 2017, as scheduled, and will not be extended further. 5, the town clerk is directed to enter said local law into the minutes of this meeting, into the local law book for the town of Boston, to publish said minutes in a newspaper published in the town, if any, or in any such newspaper published in the county in which such town may be located, having a circulation in such town. An affidavit of said publication shall be filed with the town clerk, and to file a copy of said local law with the Secretary of State.
Do I have a motion? Is there any discussion on the board?
Got it.
Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Okay, just right before we have the vote, I just wanted to add one thing that I neglected to mention before when we were launching the public hearing. I just wanted to mention that we also included a tree bank for when many trees are removed from a site. That's also new, so that's just another environmental addition to our local law. All goes well. With our roll call vote. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Tory? Aye. Councilwoman Jeffries?
Aye.
Councilman
It's on the Vice Jeffrey.
Aye.
Councilmember Feldman? Aye. And Supervisor Lindberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Again, it's been a long process and very exciting that we are now reached the conclusion of it. And as I said, we will continue to have further conversations in the near future about zoning.
Tax payment plan, 210 North Highland Avenue. Whereas the town of Osprey is required to collect town, county, and school taxes for the municipality, with the onus on the town to make whole the county and school district for any uncollected taxes. And whereas the receiver of taxes has been approached by a property owner requesting a short-term payment plan for the owner-occupied property at 210 North Highland Avenue. Tax parcel designation ID 89.11-1-77. And whereas the town board pursuant to Article 5 of the Austin Town Code as authorized by Section 1184 of the New York Real Property Tax Law, before entry of a final judgment, withdraw a parcel for which payment of real property taxes is delinquent from a foreclosure proceeding, and to enter into an installment plan for payment of all delinquent taxes as well as interest and penalties, and does actually grant such a plan and has the discretion to accept or reject any proposal by a residential or commercial property owner, providing the owner meets the eligibility requirements set forth in Section 180-17 of the Town Code, and the payment plans conforms to the requirements for such a repayment plan set forth in Section 180-18 of the Town Code. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austin grants the aforementioned payment plan, which terms comply with the Town Code, to this property owner who has been determined to be eligible, with the understanding that this sets no precedent going forward for this or any other property in the future.
Do I have a motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're very happy to be able to offer these types of payment plans to taxpayers so that we can keep our properties on the roll, get our taxes paid, and get everybody back into good shape.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn into the town only?
Thank you very much. And now we are going to start. We have 2 items up for conversation tonight. We have a special presentation from our guests, Ron Schulhoff and Michelle Sterling, from the Scarsdale Food Scrap Recycling Program. Food Scrap Waste Recycling Program? Just Food Scrap Recycling Program. And the reason that we have them here to talk about this tonight is because we are in discussion, just following that, about our refuse and recycling request for proposals. We're at the end of our contract with Suburban, and it's time for us to go out to bid. We need to do that quickly so that we can have all of those bids in time for our budget process, which is we are in the middle of right now. So we are hopeful to get that underway. This was something that we had planned for a long time, and it's part of our regular conversation that we have at our town hall meetings when we like to bring these types of conversations to the public and to our residents. So we're going to hear from Scarsdale Group first, and then after that, we're going to hear from Maddie Zahat, our budget director, to talk a little bit about our refuse and recycling RFP. And following that, we will hear from anybody in the public who has anything to say about this or any other subject. Thank you so much for coming, Michelle and Ron, and we look forward to our
Thanks
presentation.
for having us.
Come on up.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, I'm Michelle Sterling,
Hi, Ron Schulhoff.
and we are Scarsdale residents and volunteers. We co-chair our town sustainability committees, and together we co-founded for Scarsdale, along with our Department of Public Works, we work with them, we co-founded a food scrap recycling program. So we do a lot of different things regarding sustainability in our town. This is just one of them. And it's been an incredibly successful program so far. A lot of other towns in Westchester County have heard about it. Actually, we started this in January, some have since started their own programs, and we've been talking to Dana. We're volunteers, and we've made it into kind of a turnkey program, and we're happy to just give it away to other towns. So everything that you see tonight, from the bins to the signs to the brochures to all the RFPs we did, you can have all of it because we just want other towns to follow suit.
And before we walk you through, so tonight we're going to walk you through what the program looks like, from a resident at home to dropping off to the town operations to where it goes and why we're doing this. But just a little bit about what is food scrap recycling. So just like you recycle cans and bottles and paper, food scraps are a resource that can be turned into something if they're done properly. So if we take all of our food scraps, if anybody knows what backyard composting is, if you take your food scraps, you can turn them into soil in as little as 3 months. You just need to have a process to do that. In Westchester, all of our trash goes to an incinerator not far from here, where it's burned, so you don't get those resources out. So what Scarsdale has done is created a program to allow our residents to recycle their food scraps easily. This is something that is in conjunction with doing backyard composting, so if you do that or you know what that is, we both do it, we love it, we promote it. This is something you would do in addition to that, or if you don't do backyard composting, you would do this instead of that. And so Michelle will start and walk you through what it looks like.
Just one more point on that, because Dana had emailed about volume. So right now, when you look at municipal solid waste, about 25% of municipal solid waste is food scraps. And actually, if you go by weight, it's actually more than that. So when we have residents participating in this program, they basically say, we don't have any waste anymore, because you're taking out all the food, you're taking out all the moisture, and it's just kind of fluff in there. So this really brings you down to a very minimal amount of waste that you generate. And that's something that we're looking to do in Scarsdale. I'm sure you're looking to do that in Ossining as well, right? How do you reduce waste and increase recycling? So this is sort of the final frontier on that. This is the last big chunk that you can take out of your waste stream and put into recycling. So here's what our site looks like. It's a really simple program. That's why we hopefully people can come see it. This is in our recycling center. It doesn't have to be in a recycling center. It could be anywhere where you have some space. And we took a couple of parking spots. So these are, bins. A resident literally just drives up here, opens a bin, and we'll show you the kits that we offer to residents, dumps their food scraps into the bin, and that's it, and they drive off. There's a big sign there, and we give them a lot of information when they sign up. So it's a very, very simple program.
So we're going to start with what it looks like for the homeowners, everybody in the audience. So to make it really easy, Michelle and I went out and looked at a lot of different pails to collect food scraps. For a year, we tested a lot of different pails to make sure that they were sturdy, there was no smell, no bugs, they looked nice. So what you get is a small countertop pail, and this is a starter kit that our village purchases, and then residents can buy at cost.
I will be his vendor. Later, you will be my vendor.
That you can buy from the village. So you don't have to go looking to find where to get a kit, which pail is really good, what to use. So you get this countertop pail, it goes right on your kitchen counter or under the sink, it's nice and small, and you get compostable bags. And so we'll hand some of these out later. If you feel these, they feel just like plastic. except they're made of corn. This bag, along with all your food scraps, will be soiled in 3 months. So by having the bag, it makes it really easy, it makes it really clean. So you have this, you have the pail on your kitchen counter, and you're gonna put all food in here. And when we say all, we mean really all food. So it's fruit and vegetables, coffee grounds and eggshells, just like you could do in your backyard, but it's also meat, dairy, fish, bones, shells, bread, pasta, leftovers, expired food, any food. You can also put in paper products that can't be recycled, and that's your soft paper. So your paper towels and your napkins. You can put in popsicle sticks, chopsticks, coffee filters, tea bags. Basically anything from nature can go back in here. And what's really nice is when your kids or you are scraping your plate of something that you don't want to save, you don't have to think about it. Can it go in here? Can't go in here? If it's food, it goes in this pail.
Yeah, it's just an important distinction because a lot of people do backyard composting, and they, when you first talk to them about food scrap recycling or composting, the first thing they think is, I already do that, I have a hole in my backyard and I put it in there. And this is a much different process. This goes to a commercial composting facility. So it's the size of a football field. The piles are, it gets mixed in with wood chips there. The piles are 3 stories high, gets up to about 160 degrees. So a carcass or bones, anything can break down in that pile very quickly. Whereas in your backyard composting pile, that gets up to about 120, maybe 130. So it really can't handle all the things that you can put in here. It really is all food. And people can't believe it when we talk about like a clamshell. People are like, oh, a clamshell? Yes. A clamshell, bones, it can all go in there. And believe me, when you take all that out of your trash, you really won't have much trash. And the nice part is, it's not just taking it out of the trash, but you're actually turning it into soil, literally, in 2 months.
So hopefully you can hear this part when you close it. It really seals. So we tested about 10 different pails for a year to the chagrin of our spouses. And to make sure that there was no smell. You can leave food in here 3 to 4 days. There will be no smell coming out of this. But when you fill it up or when you're ready to take it out, so obviously this will, depending on how big your family is, might last only a day or a few days.
So you just tie it on itself. Imagine this is full of, you tie it on itself. You plop it in here. And this is what we call, so that's the countertop pail. This is what we call the storage and transportation bin. So this, you can put about 4 or 5 of those little bags in here. And this is what you take with you to the drop spot in the previous screen.
So we'll show you a little, but not us doing it, but what some happy residents are doing.
That's just, it's actually my daughter's friend. I walked in to pick up my daughter from a play date. And she was like, Mrs. Sterling, let me show you. So people are pretty excited about it. So this is somebody at the drop-off. So you can you can take the bags right out and plop them in. That's what she did. Or you can just dump this straight in there. So that's basically how it works. Just one quick note on the kits. So we did a lot of research on the kits because there's so many different compost bins out there, so many different types of bags. You don't want to just be sending people to Amazon to go researching what they should get. So we tested for a bin that was sturdy, that had no smell, no mess, easy to clean, easy to handle, lightweight, and inexpensive. But we actually don't require using the kit. So you do not need a kit, and even if you do need a kit, you don't have to use the liner bags. You can use anything. You can use a kit or litter bucket if you want, anything that has a lid that you can take to the spot.
So from a resident's perspective, that's it. You're done. You collected your food scraps, put them in your storage bin, you brought them to the drop-off site, and you drive away, and you don't have to think about mixing your pile or did I put the food in it that could go in it. You're done, and you go start collecting the next week. So what we'll talk about is from the town side now. And when we were thinking about this program and working with our village, we said we need to make it easy for the residents. We also need to make it easy for the town, for the operations. So the bins you see here, they're special organics bins. So what makes them organics bins versus a regular bin you might have at home? Well, first, they're bright green, so it's really clear. This is something different. We're not going to put our trash in here. They have thicker walls, so they can handle the heavy food waste. It also protects them as they get banged around. The top is latched to prevent any animals from getting in there. We've been doing this for a year now in Scarsdale. We have no issues with any animals coming into the bins. We've also been doing it in the Scarsdale schools for 5 years and had no issues. So it's a question a lot of people ask us, and you'll come and you'll visit and you'll see there's no marks on there, nobody's trying to pry it up, but there's a lid there, just a latch just to lock it. It's also fully sealed. So sometimes where the tip bar is or where the wheels are, there's some holes, and that could let out smells or liquids. So these things are fully sealed. They fill, the manufacturer fills them with water, turns them upside down to make sure they're sealed, and that makes it really clean, really neat.
And we tested these too. We tested various types of bins for this also.
And just, I think you can kind of see, but what we took, this is we have a recycling center in Scarsdale. You don't need a recycling center. Greenberg's going to do it in a park because they don't have a site like this. We took 3 parking spots. We really could have done it with 2. We put the cinder blocks, not us, but the village DPW, put the cinder blocks around. We put a large sign. You don't need a lot of space to do this. You don't need a special space. You can find somewhere where this will work.
So just to go, walk you through the process that your DPW or whoever would be at the site, how it would work for them. And by the way, we didn't hire any extra personnel when we took this on. So we have a recycling center and it has somebody who's there. So that person who's there now does this. So when a resident comes up, we like to just put like 3, we used to just put 3 bins. Actually now we put 5 bins in front because we have so many participants. They get filled pretty quickly. So we roll a few bins up front. Why do we not roll all 30 bins up front? Because you don't want people putting little bits into each bin. You want bins to get full fairly quickly, and then the bins get rolled back, and then fresh ones get rolled back up. So that way the resident has a really good experience when they're using it. So these are ones the resident pulls up. When these are full, they literally just get turned backwards, and they just get moved back into the corner. So it's pretty simple. I mean, the only thing really the guys are doing are just wheeling them up, and then every once in a while they wheel them back, and then we wheel empty ones back up.
And it's the hauler that picks up those full bins. So when the hauler comes once a week, the hauler is wheeling those full bins out and tipping them. And just to show you the size, so when we started this, we were the first municipality in Westchester to do this, so we were version 1. So we used 32-gallon bins, because as Michelle mentioned, we wanted to turn them over a lot. We didn't know how many people would do it in the beginning. We didn't want food sitting there, and you'd come as a resident, open it up, and have food for sitting there for a day. These are actually too small. You really want to go with this size in the back, which is one we tested, which is 64 gallons.
You'll be getting like version 501, we're 101.
And we're going to give all of this, everything that we've done. We're ordering these in bright green to use with the smaller ones, and we also tested a size bigger. That one just got too heavy to move. So we tested various sizes, and we also specifically did not go with a dumpster, even though you could just have one dumpster, because of what Michelle mentioned. You don't want somebody coming there and they open it up and the food's been there for a week. The really nice thing is, once these get wheeled to the side, they're not open until they're picked up. That's why if you come here, and unfortunately it's getting too cool now, but we hosted a lot of municipalities in July, in August. They called and said, we want to come in the hottest week. We said, great, come in the hottest week.
We encourage people to come visit it on the very, very hottest week. There is no smell. There's no smell, there's no nothing. You can't even imagine it.
What we're doing here, this whole tour, standing right next to the bins.
Just one more thing. So you'll see there's a little bag around the edge here. So our DPW, you don't have to line these bins. Our DPW wanted to line them. It's helpful for them to have a liner bag in there. Makes it a little cleaner for them. So that's why you see a line. Those are compostable liner bags that they put in there. So here are our metrics. We started we haven't been going for a year. We've been going much longer in the schools, but we started in January of this year. And our goal, we have 5,500 homes. So our goal was to get 10% of the community by December. So we thought, in 1 year, if we can get 10% of our households participating, 550 homes, that would be incredible. So what did happen? So we bought 200 kits. We sold out in 2 weeks. And then we bought a whole bunch more. And now by May, we had sold 800 kits. So that's 800 homes participating, and remember, there are some homes participating that aren't using kits. So, you know, we kind of blew through our expectations. People just love the program. So, you know, you can see it just basically goes up with time. There's a drop in the summer. We have a lot of people who are just not around. People with second homes are just not around in the summer.
We also were sold out of kits for the
Right.
summer.
So we did sell out. They were on back order, they're not anymore. So we did sell out for the summer. Now they're just back in stock, so we're gonna have another rise with a lot of people who've been waiting for kits.
And one thing that's really exciting for us about these metrics, you know, we do a lot of sustainability work. And one question is always, how do you reach part of the population that might not be thinking about this every day? That may not be coming to the board and saying, boy, we want composting. You know, when are we gonna have composting? So when we started this, one question that we received a lot from our board, from other residents was, are you just gonna get the people doing this that, you know, think about this all day? Or we're already backyard composting, and now they're gonna do this. And that was your 200 that bought kits the first week, that had been asking us and emailing us, we heard it's coming, when is it coming? When we got to 800, and you stand at the drop-off site, you see who's coming, we're way past that. We're the people who say, I just want to do something. I know, there's an issue, I know we can do something in Scarsdale, and I want to help, and it's just an easy way for them to do it. And we've worked on a lot of initiatives, and the feedback, you know, we're on the front line, we're out there with these kids doing outreach, and the positive feedback we get from all members of the community, people with young kids, people whose kids have moved out, it's just been, you know, so incredible. It's really exciting.
Yeah, people love the program. They feel so good about it. You know, Ron, like Ron said, I mean, we have a certain percentage of people who are from Canada or England or Germany or Marin County. They've been doing it. They were waiting for it. We are so far past that. We're into the zone of people who didn't even know what compost was. They just, you know, wanted to do the right thing, and we made it convenient and, you know, inexpensive, and they just wanted to do the right thing. We explained it to them. It made sense, and they're doing it, and they're so into it now.
So the next question is always, what's it cost? So we'll go over the financials. So we wanted to make this easy for residents. We wanted to make it easy operationally for the town, but we also had to make it financially feasible. We also wanted to make it scalable, so as it grew, it wouldn't bust our budget. So there's three major expense categories. The first is, what did it take to start up? The second is, what does it take to run each year? And then the third piece is, what is the service that our village is providing to residents by having these kits and buying bags that residents can come purchase? So the startup expenses, it was about $1,400. That was for those organics toters you saw and that big sign. That was it. We took parking spaces that were already there. It was very minimal for us to start up.
Can you just be clear, the startup expenses for whom?
This is for the village of Scarsdale.
Okay, so you're talking about the municipality, not the resident.
Exactly. This was for the municipality. The second piece is the annual operating cost. So the major part of the operating cost is that pickup. So we don't compost in Scarsdale, and we can't drive our truck to the compost facility. It's not efficient for us to do that. So we went to bid, and we have a hauler that picks up weekly from the drop-off site. It happens to be Suburban. You know, we went to a bid, but I just tell you that because Suburban knows about picking up food scraps. That is about $400 a month, or about $5,000 a year. The second piece is, Michelle mentioned, we line the larger bags with compostable bags. That's about $500 a year. And then we do outreach and publicity. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. Most of that is through residents, like Michelle and I, or other residents. But we have done a couple things. We bought a banner. And the main event we did is we did a compost give back day. Because we don't compost in Scarsdale, we wanted residents to understand, what are they doing? When the food goes in here, what happens to it? What is compost? So the village sent a truck to the compost facility, bought compost back. So when we send it to the facility, what they do with it is they turn it into soil and they sell it to farmers, landscapers, and homeowners. And our village bought 20 cubic yards. We dumped it in one of those parking spots you saw next to the site, and we let all the residents know they could come pick up a bucket. We got there to set up to do some outreach at about 7:30 in the morning. and there was a line of cars waiting to come pick up. We had hundreds of residents come. It was a really great event, both for goodwill towards our village, and also so residents could understand what's happening here, what's the purpose of this.
And the Compost Give Back Day wasn't just for participants, it was actually open to our whole community, because a lot of people think, oh, compost, you know, they relate it in their head to, it's gonna smell like manure or something disgusting, and it was really nice to have this big, beautiful black pile of soil there that had no smell at all, and looked so rich, and really gave a great understanding to people in the program and not in the program what we're doing. And we had a lot of people even signing up on the Give Back Days because they're like, oh, this is what's happening in my food scraps, I want to do it. So the Compost Give Back Days have been great for both of us.
And now we'll talk about this final category, this what we call reimbursed outlays. So this is items that the Village of Scarsdale purchased to resell to residents. So what are those? It's the starter kit, and then we also, to make it easy for residents, the village buys compostable bags in bulk and then resells them to residents at cost. So a starter kit, which is the small pail, the larger storage and transportation bin, a roll of compostable bags, and a guide that we made, is $20. And the beauty of that is if you go on Amazon to buy this, it's $50. But we buy it in bulk, we got a great price. That price, part of our negotiation was to say any other municipality could piggyback off of that, so you would get the same thing. The rolls are $2 a roll for the small pail, and we just resell that at cost.
We also spoke with these manufacturers and a lot of other ones. We told them, we're volunteers, we chair our town sustainability committee, we told them what our mission was, and they're supporting it. So, everybody is sort of coming around to do the right thing, and we told them, like Ron said, you can't just give us this pricing. It has to be for all 43 of our towns. And they agreed to do it. And then one other thing is on the guide, we had it translated into Spanish and Mandarin. A couple of our residents on the committee did it, so we have it in 3 languages now.
So this final piece here, this is something that the village outlays so that we can get it at the best price and then resells to residents.
So, outreach is key, and that's where, your residents come in, your sustainability committee comes in. So you can't really expect the municipality, obviously the municipality does their piece, and that's not nothing, but this piece is really important. So right now, one of the keys to this is making sure that people just put food and paper products in there, just put things from nature in there, and that there isn't any sort of contamination. And how do you do that? You do that because every time when you sell one of these kits, you don't just hand it to somebody. You explain to them the program, what goes in, what doesn't go in. So Ron and I and other committee members were out there in the beginning, and we showed up everywhere. We went to Boy Scout meetings, Girl Scout meetings, school events, League of Women Voters, Rotary Club. I mean, you name it. If there was a town event, we went to it, and we started explaining to everybody. Just you can recycle food scraps in Scarsdale. And people were really interested. So that's basically what we've been doing for months. And now, just one thing, is that now people are so into it that people we don't even know, we notice, because we have a sign-in sheet when you buy a kit or buy refill bags, that people are buying 10 plus kits and just selling them. They'll have people over, and they sell them, or they bring them as house gifts in town. People are really into it.
And just as you see some pictures down here, so that's Michelle and I. The 7th grade teacher asked us to come in and explain to the kids why we're doing this. The second picture is our former mayor, the mayor when we started this program. And he said, I'm going out somewhere to a neighborhood association and I want to promote this. And the third one is the Compost Give Back Day. You can see people picking up the compost on the left-hand side. And another important part about outreach for us is the why of all this. So why are we doing this? For us, when we were looking at the metrics, the best metric would be if we saw that go to 0. If people said, I'm not wasting food anymore. Now we know that won't happen because when you cook, you're going to have certain things left over. But we have people come to us and say, I need 2 of these pails because I use so many paper towels and I fill one with just paper towels. And then they came back and said, you know what, I started using a dish towel. So it was really nice to see that. Just one last thing is, we started this in January, it was really nice, a lot of towns have come. Since then, Bedford, Larchmont, Mamaroneck have all started, Greenberg has started this fall. So it's really become a county initiative, it's really nice. Thanks for having us.
If you have any questions,
Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of people in the audience, again, who come for a different purpose, but I do want to open it up. If anybody has any questions, again, we'll try to be brief. Please come on up and grab this microphone from me. You can't do it without a microphone, and you have to stand up. Thank you.
Hi, I just have a question. You don't do recycling like the composting in Scarsdale. Where does it go?
So right now it goes actually to Ulster County, and that's a really important point, which we could go into. So part of the reason why we want all of our towns to do it is because we are ultimately looking to have a Westchester County composting facility. So if you go to Rockland or Orange.
Yeah, I worked one of those, and you know, the biggest thing was the smell. Nobody wanted it in their backyard.
Right.
Like,
Well,
here's where it went.
where this goes to in Ulster County, there is no smell. We've been there several times.
Thank you.
It's an important point. We used to compost in Scarsdale, the leaves, 20 years ago, and they stopped it because of the smell. And so we looked into that and said, well, what happened? Why did you have to stop it? And composting is not new, but what is new is the process by which they do it. So for example, in Ulster County, they pump air to it to make sure it doesn't smell. There are other ways to do it in vessel. So if you were going to do it in a more urban setting, where you do it fully enclosed. So those are things that the county figure out, depending on where they site it, but it's absolutely an important issue, but it's something that newer composting facilities have looked at.
But it's so important that all of our towns, we're basically leading the way here. Because it's sort of chicken or the egg. If the county sees the flow of organics, we'll get a facility.
Somebody else have a question in the audience? Bring a mic to you. Another quick question. Are all communities doing it the same way? That have taken it on, like Bedford, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, so far everybody's doing it the same way?
Yes.
Okay. And okay, I think you answered all my questions that I need for tonight. Thank you so much. Wait, oh, hold on one second. Okay, let me just come over.
So she asked, what about roadkill?
We have so much of it on the
Okay, so the question was, what about roadkill?
Yeah. So we don't take roadkill. Roadkill, we don't take roadkill, and we also don't take pet waste.
Okay, so no roadkill, no pet waste. Okay, all right.
Because roadkill is not food.
Just FYI, just a point. Roadkill is getting composted. Anything on the thruway.
But it's not food.
No, it doesn't
I mean,
go into
generally
this facility.
speaking,
It
it's
goes
not.
to.
I mean, I'm not going to get into judgments, but.
Thank you very much for having us. Okay, and thank you so much. I just wanted to make another, just a quick statement. As I had mentioned earlier, Green Ossining, that is our town and village committee that helps look into a lot of the sustainability efforts for us, and very much like Michelle and Ron, I think, have tried to look for ways for us to be a more sustainable community. Yeah, what happened on the lights? We lost, oh, I see, okay. Somebody hit the light, but we don't know who. Can you just, whoever hit the light, maybe get it back up? Thanks. We did get a statement from Green Ossining because they actually have a meeting tonight and they weren't able to be here. They wanted to let us know that they completely support the Food Scraps program, and not just Green Ossining, but many folks who visit places, local businesses in our downtown, who Susie Ross, who's the chair of Green Ossining, have spoken to, have asked, when is composting coming, similar to what Michelle and Ron mentioned. And she said she just gotten an ex-Scarsdale resident who now lives here, who clipped an article from the Journal News about how composting is spreading through the Sound Shore and sent it to her. Then there are folks at the Ossining Organic Community Garden, also in Cedar Lane Park, that have also asked. So yes, Green Ossining supports it, but there are so many other people who do too. So we will continue to have some conversations about this at our board table, and as part of our refuse and recycling bid, we will consider how we might want to combine it potentially. One of the other things that you mentioned was that it reduces the weight, the overall weight, and that is how we pay for our solid waste. So besides reducing the weight for, I don't know, it seems like $7,000 expenditure for the village, you might be offsetting a huge amount of disposal costs by weight. that we would have. So it has the potential to also be money saving. So thank you again very much for your presentation. And we are planning to, Paul Frioli is in the audience, and he also represents our the Village DPW, and Susie Ross, who represents Green Austin. We've been trying to coordinate a time. We were hoping to get there before tonight. We haven't done that yet, but we're hoping to get there in the stinky summer, which isn't stinky, the very hot summer, but we haven't gotten there yet. But we'll continue to coordinate, and we'll definitely come and pay you a visit, although it looks like there's not a whole heck of a lot to see once we get there, but we'll use our noses. Okay, we have a question, one more question from
Michelle and Ron. What do restaurants do? Because those pails don't look big enough for a restaurant.
That's a great question. So the question is, what do restaurants do? So in Scarsdale, we first started with our schools. Then we went to houses of worship. And the reason we did that is we wanted people to experience it. So if you go to a restaurant or a supermarket where there's a lot of weight you can pull out, it's in the kitchen or it's in the back area, and people don't see it, they're not experiencing it. However, we want to get there next. And so this summer, we started the first restaurant pilot program in Scarsdale.
Yeah, we started at a restaurant this summer, and it's going great. Just one really quick point on that. So, you know, the metrics are fantastic. We're doing over 2 tons a week, and it just keeps growing. But for Ron and I, it's actually not about the metrics. It's really about creating a sustainable mindset and creating a mental shift amongst people to really realize that food scraps are not waste. They're a resource. There's nutrients in them. They're nutrient dense, and they can go to a useful purpose as opposed to going to our incinerator, which is basically a dead end. So it's really, you know, everything that we take from the earth, whether it's food or the clothing we wear, we take out of the earth, but only if we put back to the earth in equal amounts will we live sustainably. That's where we're going with this, you know, more than just the metrics. So we could do a supermarket or a restaurant and we could have incredible metrics, right? I mean, we could just go to the back, but who would we touch with that? We would touch a couple people at a restaurant or a couple people at a supermarket. But with a residential program or house of worship program, then we're really creating a shift. And that's really our ultimate goal.
Just to answer your question, we have bigger green bins.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Okay, so next up, we had plans to discuss our refuse and recycling RFP. Maddie Zahac, as I had mentioned, I put together a presentation to look back at what we had had put together for our RFP in 2012, what is actually in place today since that went into force, and then what some of the costs that we paid, what would we do moving forward. You know, maybe we consider a food scraps program as part of that bid. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but we can certainly look into that. And what our recycling numbers have looked like, what our solid waste numbers have looked like, and what do we want to consider moving forward. And this is really specifically for the unincorporated area waste. Because we have so many people here who come to discuss another subject, I want to make a statement first about the board and homestead, since I know many of you are here to talk about homestead tonight. And then after we make that statement, I would like to see how many people are still interested in coming to speak before the board, and then we will decide if we want to postpone the conversation about the refuse and recycling RFP to our next town meeting, which is on, not our town hall meeting, but our next board meeting, which is on this coming Tuesday, October 10th. So here's what we have to say. This board continues to question the supposed benefits of enacting homestead. We are not convinced that it would be fairer or better for our community to adopt this legislation because of the negative impact it has had on other communities throughout New York State that have adopted it. If it has a negative impact on the commercial tax rate, as it certainly has had elsewhere, and is irreversible, as we understand it to be, it could, in fact, be worse for taxpayers rather than better. Expanding our business community is the fastest, most enduring way to hold down residential taxes, whereas a shrinking commercial base costs everyone more. We have lined up some experts who have studied the impact of homestead in other communities in New York State to discuss their findings with the greater Austin community. We have them scheduled to come to us on Monday, November 20th, and we look forward to seeing all of you again then. The location will be announced shortly. Following that announcement, I don't know if any of you want to continue to talk. We have received many, many, many emails from, I would say the majority of the emails, I wouldn't say, I mean, it's not a question. The great majority of emails that we have received and also correspondence by mail have been opposed to homestead. And we know that, you know, we understand that most of that is from condominium owners. We have other anecdotal information that some of our commercial business owners are also do not look upon adopting homestead favorably. We know that there has been a mailing that's gone out from individuals in our community who believe that this is a fairer approach to taxation, and they believe that the condominium owners are not fairly taxed. And we understand that the condominium owners don't see it that way, and we understand all of the reasons. You've been very, very clear before now, and again now. So if you want to continue to speak to us about this, you feel free. This is your meeting, and you may certainly come up and address the board. But I just want to let you know that I think all of us are pretty familiar with the arguments that you've made, as well as the individuals who have sent out the mailing. And just to reiterate, we did send out a press release to clarify that my name and the town address was on the postcard, but we had nothing to do with that mailing. We did not pay for it, nor did we agree to pay for return postcards. We had nothing whatsoever to do with the mailing that was endorsing the town adopting homestead. We heard about it, and we saw what it looked like because it came to our homes too, but we did not endorse it, and we certainly did not pay for it or agree to pay for any return. And again, it's also our understanding that those who did send it out put down a deposit for the return postcards, and that's some kind of a standard business reply language, as we've been told. But we haven't paid a cent, nor will we build a cent, nor would we pay a cent for that, just to let everybody know. So we have a list of people who have signed up, and Madeline Zahat is now going to call off those names, and if you don't feel the need to come up, you do not have to come up, even if your name is called.
Thank you. Okay, the first name is, I'm so sorry, Renat Rennie.
Renata.
Okay, I'm sorry. You want to just grab that microphone and just make sure you speak very, very closely.
Good evening. Thank you for your statement. That's very reassuring. It seems like only yesterday that all of us condominium owners were here asking the candidates for office what they thought about homestead, and we voted accordingly when we heard your opinions, so we hope you will abide by your opinions from the end. I'm Renati Reddy. I'm president of the Mystic Point Condominium Association, and I'm also a founding member of the Ossining Condo Association, which is the membership group of all the condominium associations in Ossining. We represent over 1,000 condo units, which has over 3,000 voters, and we're willing and able to mobilize these voters to make sure that the information, that is distributed is accurate. I just want to say one thing. I represent Mystic Point. We have 168 units. We actually have 4 school-age children there, only 2 of which go to Ossining schools, yet we pay school taxes willingly and happily. And this is all sort of gravy for the Ossining school system and for other things, and we have a very small footprint on the resources of Ossining. We pay for our garbage, we pay for our street maintenance, we pay for lighting, we pay for all sorts of things, and we do it gladly. But to imply, as the mailing did, that we are sort of piggybacking on the backs of single-family homeowners is really inaccurate and unfair. Anyway, I don't want to take up more time, but I do want to say that we will continue to support the board if they continue to support us in fairness. We don't want anything extra, but we do want to be fair to everybody. Thank you.
Immediate.
Perfect.
I just want to remind everybody, we're putting the clock on for 3 minutes, so if you could please respect the time since we don't have a lot of it, and we do need to be out of here by 9:15. Thank you.
Well, certainly, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to basically address the elected officials of the town of Boston. I've lived in Eagle Bay for 32 years. I paid all my property taxes, my school taxes, my basically condominium fees. I want to really just put in the back of the mind of everybody in the meeting tonight that a condominium is not a single-family house. Well, let's take an example. Well, let's assume that we have a $400,000 condominium and we have a $400,000 single-family house on Audubon Drive. The person who's sitting in a $400,000 house on Audubon Drive basically has the village or the town come in, do trash removal, do lighting, do road repair, do sewer. The person who's sitting in a $400,000 condominium in Eagle Bay, we pay condominium fees. And believe me, at Eagle Bay, the condominium fees are not de minimis, plus special assessments that seem to go on to perpetuity. So really, the issue is that if the property taxes were to be equalized, it would be basically inequitable. And the reason why it would be inequitable is you'd have the person sitting in a $400,000 single-family house paying the same property taxes as somebody sitting in a condominium, $400,000. The village and the town undoubtedly is not going to come in and do all these services. The town is not going to come in and plow snow, basically lighting, road repairs, sewers, etc., 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 and even trash pickup. So you can't have a situation where you have inequity among citizens of the town of Boston or the village of Boston. An inequitable situation should never be allowed to persist. And it's very unlikely that the condominiums are going to lower their fees to zero. So if the $400,000 house and a $400,000 condominium are taxed at the same rate, you'd have a difference. So I think you need to really put in the back of your mind and think very carefully that a condominium is not a single-family house, and a single-family house is not a condominium. In fact, in a lot of condominiums, you have split units. You have an upper unit and a lower unit. Not all the condominiums in the village and the town are townhouses. Big, big difference. So really, in conclusion, I think the board is going in the right direction. I think when you stop and think about the logic involved here, that condominiums should never be paying the same property taxes as a single-family home, because the services being delivered by the town and the village will never be the same. So thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Mr. Lou LaPietra.
Can you pass it up?
Thank you for hearing us condo owners. We're all here for the same thing. I'm not going to repeat that which has already been said accurately by my fellow condo owners, but I think everyone here is encouraged by your opening statement, Madam Supervisor, because it very much tells us one thing, and that is we were all here last year, and we all made it very clear how we felt about Homestead. Your statement tonight gives us a hope, at least that you're implying that this council is going to maintain and keep its promise to us and vote no. And that's all I have to say. Please keep your promise to us, and we will keep our promise to you.
Okay, the next speaker on the list is Mr. Vaughn.
I told these guys they were going to have to stay back. Tell me I have more than 28 seconds.
I'm keeping it.
I actually wrote a little of this out because that clock is very intimidating. My name is Mike Vaughn. I live in the Woods condominium. You may remember me as one of the moderators at the Meet the Candidates night last year when you were running for your positions on the board. And as already been pointed out, at that meeting, you promised, if elected, that you would not, and I emphasize, would not enact Homestead. As you reiterate, don't impede my time here. As you reiterated tonight, Madam Supervisor, and thank you very much. I think all of us really appreciate the comments you made. You recognized the extremely detrimental impact that Homestead would have, not just on condominium owners, but on the other commercial properties and in fact on the whole town. And based on those promises, we voted for you. So thank you. And you've alluded to the mailing that we're all aware of. But I think this mailing raises another very sticky issue that you, the board, need to think about. 2 of the 3 instigators of that mailing are town officials. Mr. Carrera is chair of the town zoning board, and Mr. Gessner sits on that board. And the fact that they are actively campaigning and engaging in fundraising activities to impact town legislation is, in my opinion, a clear conflict of interest and a serious ethics violation. It's easy to imagine situations where parcel use applications come before them and in which the decisions they render will impact the tax status of that parcel. They have made their bias very clear. That's a conflict. And the fact that they, as town officials, are soliciting donations, perhaps from parties who will have matters coming before them in their board capacity, is a clear ethics violation and might even be actionable. I believe they should be sanctioned for this activity. Thank you.
I just want to point out, well, we do have our attorney here tonight, but I just want to point out that we do have an ethics board for any concerns of that nature. That's why that, and there's a particular way to submit any concerns that you have that are ethics violations to the ethics board. So if you have not already done so, or if this group has not already done so, then I would encourage you to take that matter up with the ethics board.
Where would we find that information?
It's on our website, but go ahead. You want to just...
Can I? Actually, speaking of our website, I just actually wanted to take a moment, because this is a perfect time, for everybody to take a moment to know that either you can get e-blasts out to your emails with respect to what's happening in the town and agendas, or you can go onto the websites for both the town and the village to get information. And so all kinds of information with respect to who the boards are, who is on the boards, how to contact them, what's happening in the town. That information is all there, just as an aside.
The last name on the list is Mr. Walter Zulig.
Good evening. My name is Walter Zulig. I live in Mystic Point for about 15 years now. I'd just like to put this in a little different framework, give you something else to think about. Mystic Point didn't exist until about 1995, 1996. It was vacant land for which the town received probably virtually nothing in taxes. The condominium community was built, and we now have 168 units there. But the way the houses were built, they are not child-friendly. And so there are very few children living there, and virtually none of those children attend the Ossining school system. And yet, we vote for the school budgets. My wife and I have always, no matter where we lived, voted for the school budgets. And I hope we never, ever have to vote against the school budget, because we strongly believe in public education. But I'm telling you, if this homestead option gets adopted, you're going to make us and a lot of our neighbors think very carefully about this. Why should we be subsidizing the school system to the extent that we are? And we are not being subsidized, we are subsidizing. So look at it that way too, because that's something to think about. Thank you.
Was there anyone else who wanted to address the board at this time?
Okay. Well, in that case, I thank you all very much for attending tonight. And as I said, we do have some experts coming to discuss what the impacts have been of Homestead in other communities on November 20th, which is a Monday night, not a Tuesday night. We will, we're not sure we're going to be able to be in this location, but we will let you know shortly what that location will be. And again, we thank you for your participation in government and coming out tonight. And we always look forward, and our doors are open to whatever you have to say. Thanks so much. And we're now going to spend, I know that there's a lot of you, and I know you guys want to talk amongst yourselves, but we are going to spend, I think we're just finished with the refuse and recycling since we have another 10 minutes, and that's probably all it will take to get through. So please feel free to stay if you want to hear more about our RFP, or if you could just take your conversation outside instead of talking in this room, because we're continuing with our meeting right now. We would greatly appreciate if you didn't chit-chat. Thank you. So Maddie, will you please get our next presentation up? And again, thank you very much for your participation. And Ron and Michelle, you're welcome also to stay, but you also may do not have. Okay, you're going to stay for this. Okay, fantastic. Okay, thanks again, everybody. And please, if you could keep your voices down, everybody. We still have a meeting. We still have a meeting going on. Thank you.
Tompkins County, if you have a county-run facility.
Okay, I'm going to get started. Really know how to clear a room. Good evening, everybody. The supervisor asked me to put together a short presentation about the refuse and recycling request for proposal that we plan to be putting out the next couple of weeks. As the supervisor mentioned earlier, the last time we did this was in 2012 for a 2013 RFP, which the town board was able to extend for an additional 4 years. So what did we ask for in 2012? Basically, it was labor and equipment for proper removal of commingled recyclables, swill, garbage, ashes, refuse, and rubbish for all residential properties within the refuse district, which basically means all of the homes within the unincorporated area in the town, roughly 2,160 dwelling units, and it includes all condominiums in the unincorporated area, including Deerfield, The Woods, Hudson Watch, Spring Pond, and Fox Hill, and 2 apartment complexes. The original contract called for 10 bulk pickup days throughout the year, and in 2012 we asked everyone who bid on the contract to bid on 2 distinct options. Option A was a twice-a-week trash pickup and a once-a-week commingled recycling pickup. And option B was something we wanted to try a little bit different, having 1 time a week trash pickup and 1 time a week commingled recycling pickup, and all contractors were required to bid on both options as part of their proposal. In addition, we asked that the contractor supply a couple of dumpsters to a couple of other town locations, including several parks, our highway department, and our police station, which obviously has now been repurposed, as well as clearing out dumpsters for when we had special events, specifically Stash the Trash, which is once a year. So what is in place today? The contract went through. Suburban Carting was the lowest responsible bidder, and the community very clearly came out in support of option A, which was to continue the twice-a-week trash pickup. We managed back in early 2016, Suburban Carting was generous enough to now offer bulk pickup every week, because that's something that they were able to do, so that was an added benefit that they included at no extra cost to the town. And as I mentioned, we've moved those dumpsters around a little bit. We've also sort of exchanged some of the sizes and moved them to different places. The newest addition being Engle Park. We added the picnic areas this summer, and so they were kind enough to put a dumpster down there as part of our contract. So the amount that we paid, the starting bid for the first year was $414,000, and that increased every year by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. And what we budgeted for 2017, as you can see there, is not too terribly far away from where we started. And that represents, the contract with Suburban Carting represents about 75% of the budget for the refuse and recycling district. There's a couple other charges in there, including what we pay to the town of Portland. Suburban goes there and drops the trash, and then the Portland is the one who actually gets rid of it. And then Westchester County as well for their piece. And so what are our options for going forward? Well, the way we see it, we have three, but we're certainly open to more feedback. The first one is to maintain the status quo. So basically just roll over what was in the last RFP to ask all the contractors to bid on twice a week pickup and then all the conditions that we currently have in place in 2017. The second would be an option for reduced trash pickup. So we want to try to make a case for this by saying, look how well we're doing with recycling. 45% on average over 10 years of the unincorporated area's waste is recycled. And I believe the village won an award in 2011, but the town won an award in 2012 for being such fantastic recyclers. So in addition to that, we're hoping that we would be able to decrease the solid waste by participating in the food scrap recycling program that Michelle and Ron just explained to us. The number that we went with was 20%, which listening to the presentation I think was maybe a little bit off. But just for round figures, if 20% is removed from the solid waste stream, if 100% of community residents participate, we're going to assume about 30% of Ossining residents are going to get in on this at first. So we're looking at a pretty significant reduction on the solid waste stream end of what we would actually be taking in. So we think that that might make a better argument this time around for reducing pickup to once a week for garbage. And the other option is to not only just reduce down to one time a week for trash, but also to once every other week for recycling. So that's an idea that we're just kind of batting around. But if we only have the trucks going out once per week, we could potentially halve the amount that we'd be paying to a contractor. So it's something that we thought we should at least investigate. Some additional things that we want to potentially include in the RFP this time around are some larger dumpsters at all of our parks, which we have sort of been able to make a case for as of late. We also would like to institute a recycling program in our parks. Right now, we don't have recycling bins, and then even if we did have the bins, we don't have a dumpster to empty those bins into. So that's a project that we have been talking with our park foreman, Mario Velardo, about instituting for next year. And then finally, regular pickup at the Cedar Lane Dog Park. Right now, there is a dumpster up there that Suburban Carting does service, but from what we understand, it's on an intermittent basis. It's only a couple times a year. So we were thinking maybe it's possible to work with the dog park folks and see if we can get a smaller dumpster in there that's picked up more regularly. And then finally, sharing the dumpster at the Boat and Canoe Club. Councilman Feldman, you might be able to chime in on this. We understand the Boat and Canoe Club pays for their own dumpster service. We were hopeful that maybe if we could share it, that we could add it into this contract. So that might be something that we could pick up with them.
Have a big conversation with the board.
So as far as next steps are concerned, as the supervisor mentioned earlier in the evening, we're getting a little tight as far as our budget submission is concerned. So we're really hoping to get some public feedback by maybe the end of this week, mid next week, on what our RFP should look like. But we're hoping to release it by the 16th and get responses very shortly thereafter, giving us enough time to review the submissions in time for November 21st, which now I suppose would be the November 20th town board meeting, in order to formally accept the bid. We do have a little bit of wiggle room on those dates. I was sort of hoping to have a little bit more audience participation this evening than ended up being around. So we could probably push those dates back by 2 weeks at the very most, but we really do need to get this going. I would love to post this PowerPoint on the website and maybe include it in the supervisor's blast this week, if that's all right. And we can see if we can get some feedback from the public about what they'd like to see next.
How do you want us to get your feedback?
So we'd love to get public feedback. We'll take a little bit tonight, but I'm going to ask the board first if they have any feedback, and then we'll hear from our public. If you have any suggestions or thoughts, you're welcome to share those. Otherwise, we would ask for people to just email back to town supervisor or there's a town board general email address that people could email back to.
So to the feedback part, when you were saying a week, I was going to say that's not enough, and I'm not sure what other ways can we think about getting the word out, because clearly the e-blasts and the people going to the website is not happening enough that it's going to really garner enough input from the unincorporated town. So maybe we can back something around and think about how that might happen. Maybe the condos can help get the word out since they're so good at getting the word out. I mean, we could just think about how to get the word out to some of the single families too. Just kind of thinking of that. How did you come up with a 30% participation rate? Because that sounds extremely high to me. 30% of the total town residents, you believe will immediately get involved?
You'll need to have outreach, I mean, for sure. You
Right.
need to have boots on the ground and you show up and let everybody know about it. But we have over 15%. Yeah, we have over 15% participating, close to 20% participating, and that's people who get free, it's part of their taxes, trash pickup. So all these people could literally just be putting their food in their trash and just calling it a day, and instead, but I'm saying,
listen, you got me. I'm one of those people who never wants to actually compost in my backyard, but I'm happy to do
but
this.
once you go curbside and you have it at people's homes, so all you do, like, on one day a week is literally put this at the edge of your driveway.
I see. You're saying with,
I mean,
with,
we had that, we'd be at 70%.
so it's not, 30% participation would not be overstating it if we were able to get it into our curbside, into our RFP. Got it. Okay, so that was the answer to that.
For the drop spot, you're gonna probably cap off at 30%.
You're still it's that.
For the drop spot, you're not gonna get to, 75% or 50% even, probably. But for curbside, oh yeah, it's just like recycling.
Got it.
All right. So my last statement is my small opinion about having recycling be picked up every other week. And I think that if people, if we have the reputation for recycling that we do, and in participation in recycling that we do, asking people to hold the amount of bottles and boxes and papers that they do already in their garages for 2 weeks seems uncomfortable. It's just that would be one person's opinion.
I'm sure you'll still feel that way after I say this, but the intention was to have, because right now you have 2 pickups a week, right? You have commingled and then you have paper. So the proposed number 3 would be 1 week paper, 1 week commingled, 1 week paper. So it's not like every other week.
Oh, we certainly.
I figured you'd still feel the
There's
same way.
folks in the village who do actually live by that, and one of the goals. I know, but we're all one big world. And in our big world, we're all trying to reduce our use overall. And as you start to be more aware of how much you're putting into any of those garbage pails, you can see what you put in. You don't want to have smells in your homes, right? That's one of the reasons people want to get rid of stuff. You don't want to have a big buildup. But I know that I don't have either one of those things, recycling every other week. And I have to tell you that we've been recycling, and we recycle a great deal, but we also have a great deal of reduced amount that we have, and you're going to see that even more. I mean, not that if you're starting to put paper and wood, whatever, popsicle sticks and other stuff like that, you're going to see a great reduction in everything. That's my belief, that you have the potential to see a great reduction in everything. Now, one of the other things that we did see is that we were able to scale up with Suburban and change throughout the course of the contract over the years, as they were able to change some of their offerings. So what we may want to consider is something that has a built-in, some kind of built-in flexibility to adapt to if we find out that something's not working, and try to scale back and look at what the cost would be, because it would, potentially have the ability to benefit everybody.
I think in the absence, the whole point is to bid the options so that you can evaluate. So I think in the absence of actually having the bids, this is a moot conversation.
No, but knowing what it is that, how lifestyles are and where people's comfort zones are and their habits is worth knowing before when you get bids, right? So if we can hear from people about this is how our lives, and yes, I understand the whole point of changing some of our behaviors, but as we're changing, if most people have enough stuff that they need to recycle and get it out every week, then that is one thing. If most people say, not a big deal, that just changes your thought process in terms of what your bids are. Hope.
As I pass the microphone, I'll just say the 3 R's are reduce first, reuse second, recycle last.
Okay. Maddie, the first slide or second slide, you had condominiums on there?
Yep.
Talk about that for a second.
That
We pick
is-
up for them?
Yes.
Okay.
The ones in the unincorporated area. I believe that it's different in the village of Oscar.
Correct.
Okay. Anyway, Kim? Yes. I didn't like it when I had to go to every other week with my bottles, but I got over it, I got a bigger container. But it's a conversation that we should have with the people. But I wasn't one of the people that wanted to go, but I'm there, and, you know, I'm okay with my taxes being a little lower for it.
Well, but I think that's the conversation, right? Because 4 years ago, the conversation was that whether or not people wanted to go from twice a week pick up to once, and there was an overwhelming response that they did not want to do that, and they were willing to pay for not doing that. So, you know, that's part of the conversation. So spread the word, and they're here, so let them.
Well, the other part of the conversation was that Michael said that they have a split truck. So it's not an added challenge or much of an added cost for them. So we'd have to get the bids, like Karen said, before we'd understand.
Liz, isn't there another slide that you were getting at with the condominiums?
Yeah, there was an earlier slide with that.
Yep, this one here.
I don't think Hudson Watch is a condominium.
Those are the addresses that Suburban Garden currently services for us.
Hudson Watch is a condominium.
They're a condo? I thought they were a PUD.
No, they're a condo.
Okay, so are there people in the audience who'd like to comment? Okay.
So, I'm Ed Salazzo. I professionally work for a large bank in New York. We have 2 million square feet of office space. We've been doing composting within that space for more than 5 years. So, my experience with this and during the RFP process, this is a significant profit center for the carting companies, specifically with the composting. So, I see that the pricing that Scarsdale has been able to share with us, and thank you for that. I think our conversation with Suburban, or whoever else is going to be bidding on this, is say, listen, this needs to be part of the overall package of the services you're providing here. Realize what you're making on this side. And maybe they are going to supply us with bins and things like that. Separately, the experience in the office environment, there are large commercial kitchens, and there's a lot of food production that goes on, and there's a lot of waste that comes out of there. It's been very successful for us. But it is collected at the point of where it's happening in those kitchens. People don't have to take it to other places. And I get, maybe your experience in Scarsdale is that, do people bring their other recycling to this reclamation? The other recycling is curbside, fine. I think the curbside option for food waste is probably a non-starter, just given the animals and every other thing about people putting food out overnight and things like that. So in terms of participation rate, if I had to guess, in my experience with even our suburban offices, it's probably something like in the teens, but to your point, it is about the messaging and you know, getting people involved in the right way. But I hope that's helpful.
I think with the condominiums, I really think with the condominiums that we could spread the word.
Yeah.
And give the you know, explain it. They've got flyers and stuff. I'm sure at least half the people in our condo would go for it. Like Kim, I'm not sure having the recyclables every other week would work. We'd get tons of them. everybody's got 2 bins.
Can I ask a question? How is the RFP determined for the cost? Is it by weight or by the number of pickups? Because if you have the same weight,
It's a little bit of both. I mean, you're saying how much, Dana? Yeah.
We're charged separately for the tonnage by Westchester County. So it's really the service, the labor, and the equipment that we pay for through the contract with Suburban.
so if you have the same weight in just one pickup, it's about the same price? If you have 10,000 tons and you only picked it up once a week, you wouldn't save any money?
We wouldn't save any money on the tonnage side, but we would likely save money on the contractor side because they only have to send the truck out once.
And I would like to give you my email, and if you want to e-blast to the condos, we're happy to do it through TOCA because I think there'd be a lot of interest in the condo associations. So there's an email that I can front.
Wonderful, thank you. If you guys could send out information now about responding to the survey about what people's preferences are, that would be helpful.
Can you send us some language so we know what questions to actually ask?
Maybe the PowerPoint and with the 3 options. I mean, I don't know if you can send out a PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can.
Well, we'll see if we can come up with a short
Okay.
survey even. Maybe that's not that hard to do. Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor. Maddie, we can talk more details at work tomorrow, which I'm sure we're going to do, but just for this presentation tonight, the gentleman's comment with regard to the profit center. My name is Paul Braioli. I am the engineer for the Village of Ossining and the town of Ossining. With regard to the profit center for the carting companies, it's a good question, and I think that the town might consider having some flexibility in the duration of what they commit to, because this is a long-term contract. So being that a program like food waste and other programs are new, you want to be held locked in for 5 years on something that has the potential to be a lot cheaper down the road. And I say that because I've spoken to different container companies outside of Suburban who's presently doing a few of the food waste places now. The thing that's driving the cost is the trip to Ulster County. That's the only registered place that the DEC allows for municipal food waste to get collected and be reprocessed as compost. But I also know that other companies have applications in a lot closer than Ulster County to create the same environment, which is going to significantly reduce the cost. Because right now it's all trucking for containers to get from Scarsdale to Ulster County. So if that happens in a year, you don't want to be locked into a 5-year price on something that could drop significantly. So that's something to consider, and that's what we're going to do in conjunction with the town as we develop this program ourselves in the village. The point I wanted to make with regard to the consideration of staggering your recycles and cardboard right now, like we do in the village, I will tell you that the village is actually considering going back and reverting back to recycle and cardboard weekly, because we've done some efficiencies in-house that are going to allow us to do that. It's not in stone yet. It's just something we're talking about. We're having the discussion not because it's not working now. We think it does work, but what human nature is driving people to do is the folks that don't have the bigger container or have a multi-family house that don't want to stockpile might tend to say, you know what, I'm doing the right thing, but I can't fit this in my house anymore, and it ends up in household waste. And that's what we don't want to see. That's an unfortunate, result of things like that. And so we want to give everybody every opportunity, and like a split truck, or if it's done within the same day, if we can do that within the same time frame and still offer what they used to have, then we may go back to that as well. So we'll talk about it further. But good job, Patty. Thank you.
My question is, when are we going to get to single stream recycling in Westchester County? If that's something that's going to happen within the next 5 years, that's also something for us to consider, because then, again, if you have split trucks that can take everything in one half versus the other, then, again, you can reduce your number of pickups, and or you have more pickups, but you have everything going into one bin, makes it a lot easier for people to do the recycling. So hopefully, and that's, I know, also a revenue source for companies that are dealing with all the, you know, separating, and then they're selling it off to a variety of places to make money. So, did you want to?
Sure. All right, as we know, life brings us through all kinds of experiences. So probably about pretty close to 15, 20 years ago, our town changed from 2 pickups a week to 1. Having 4 teenagers at home and friends many times with piles of garbage. I, kind of terrified at first. However, it actually, I believe, pushes us in the right direction. It pushes you to recycle because you don't have room for the cardboard and the plastics and the bottles in your garbage cans. And actually, we went from maybe 2 garbage cans twice a week to 1 garbage can, maybe 2 once a week. Because now our cardboard was full, and at the same time they started the recycling, so it was kind of a lot of things happened all at once. And of course, at the same time, they sent patrol cars out monitoring who was putting what and put stickers on your garbage can if you weren't, and all kinds of annoying things. But anyway, I really believe it would be a good avenue to pursue, and because it does push you into recycling, you push the food waste into it, would add another layer of it, and I just think it will work very well. I think with the amount that you have to separate, though, putting the recycles every other week would be an issue. So because you are separating it, you still need so many trucks to pick up the same amount of garbage. So I think it's good thoughts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody staying here to give their public comment on this issue, and we hope that we can incorporate everything into our RFP, get some really great bids, and have some good services to continue to offer to our town outside residents, our unincorporated town residents. Thanks again, everybody, for your participation this evening. Thank you to my board members and colleagues, and our council, and Maddie. And we will see you all next Tuesday, October 10th at the courthouse for a regular legislative session. Have a great night and a great week, everybody. We hope to see you around town this weekend. Bye-bye.